Closers, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down a live sales call recording in which the individual gives me multiple objections, 4 to 5 objections actually, and I'm able to maneuver and overcome each of them to then close a $7,800 paid in full deal. I went from having no prior sales experience to making over $20,000 per month, and I've cash collected over $56,000 in a single day. So the strategy and the techniques you see is something that I've accumulated over a very long period of time and mastered from working with a number of different individuals in the space. Now, one caveat to that is I really want to stress the fact that sales frameworks, scripts, and objection handling word tracks is not what enables me to close this deal. And you'll quickly see how what actually allows me to get this individual out of their own way is the identity that I embody, the integrity that I have as an individual, and the congruency that I have upheld throughout my life. That's why I run my own brotherhood community, Congruent Closers, a male-only sales community that not only focuses on the deep-rooted sales psychology and the core understanding of sales that's necessary to operate on these calls, but also dives deeper into the external factors that play a huge role in your success, whether that be habits, health, sleep, fitness, all of these things we have to contend with as men to truly embody the successful individual that we're looking to reach. Now, if that sounds of interest to you, I have attached 2 links down in the description. I have my Instagram. You can head there and just reach out to me directly. We'll have a conversation, as well as a Calendly link. Hit that if you want to go straight to booking yourself in a 15 to 20 minute call. We can both jump on and get to know each other better. Now, let's get straight into the call review. Quick disclaimer, the voice and the audio did not sync correctly. I recorded this with Fireflies and there was a glitch to begin with. After around 10 to 15 minutes, the audio and the voice does manage to sync up. However, regardless, we're here to review a call. I'm going to break it down line by line and explain to you how an elite closer operates, how I contend with this prospect, and then eventually help him to get out of his own way, overcoming multiple objections towards the back end of the call. So stay tuned because this is a bit of a wild ride. Let's get into things. Awesome. I know we've got like relatively limited time today, but are we good for about the next 60 minutes or so?
Yeah, no problem for me.
Awesome. So just so we're aligned up front with the call, really, like we obviously won't be getting into anything too overly technical or in the weed on the call, right? All the strategies and breakdowns are obviously inside the training itself. What I do want us to focus on today, though, more than anything else, is yourself, really. So let's chat about where you're at with your trading right now, of course, what it is that you're working towards, and then where you feel that the gaps are. And based on our chat, I may recommend you, something more advanced and in-depth. So we'll just kind of have a chat and get a bit more clarity if that's cool with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really basic frame. Now, because this is a trading offer that I'm selling on, this frame is what I would recommend to individuals that are working on more logistical or analytical offers, because I do not want to get bogged down in logistical surface level questions. So I set the tone at the top end of the call to tell them, look, we're not going to be getting into anything too overly technical or in the weeds, because that's, of course, within the training itself, of course. However, what I do want to focus on this call is yourself, because at the end of the day, the prospect only cares about themselves. They do not care about the benefit that your business is going to gain from their service. So it always needs to be framed in that way.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So yeah, walk me through where you're at with the trading right now.
Skip the bullshit. And about 6 months ago,
So immediately skip the bullshit. Sets a bit of a tone at the beginning of the call to whether he feels as though a sales process and these questions that I'm going to be asking necessarily serve a purpose, if he's referring to them as bullshit.
enjoyed a Swedish trading course,
Mm-hmm.
and then it shows up to be very, very basic, and that's a
Okay.
good start for it. But as I am in the age I am, I don't have 20, 30 years to save the funds and such, so I need to a little bit faster.
Okay.
Some money. I'm retired, and I could expand my wallet a bit. That's been fine. I'm not seeking to be a millionaire in 3 weeks, in next year or so. That's not my goal. I just want
Well,
to
you wouldn't if you could snap your fingers and be a millionaire in the next year, you wouldn't. So your prospects are going to do this quite often. So as you can see there, he said, "I'm not looking to be a millionaire. Like I'm looking to make a bit of money here and there." Now, people are going to say that all the time. I'm not here to, buy a Lamborghini. I'm not here to go on 20 holidays a year. The reason why they're saying that is because they don't necessarily believe that they're capable of achieving that life. And if we don't challenge that way of thinking at the immediate, as I do here, then they're going to continue with that ideology and that concept. So, a really easy way to push back on that is to just spell it back to them. So, as I've said there, well, if you could snap your fingers and become a millionaire this year, you wouldn't.
Yeah. If so, okay, that's a great excitement. And so
See how he's laughing, smiling, because he knows I've caught him off guard there and really pulled him up on what he said.
if that happens, but that's not the primary goal.
Okay. Well,
So
just
I have started to try to trade by myself with some CDFs and such. But the struggle now is to read the candles and all that stuff.
okay. So how long have you actually been trading for as a whole?
6 months.
6 months. Okay. So when you very first started, you invested into the Swedish training course.
Yeah.
When you said it's very basic, like how do you mean? I'm immediately going into the context of the very first thing he said, which is this other training course he's taken, because this could very easily become a burnt in the past objection if he feels as though he's invested into something prior and it didn't pay off.
Well, it's a very, very technical analysis and trends and that sort of stuff. And they are focused a little on long-term savings, and I have noticed mostly for 75%, it's very small fraction of swing trading or no day trading at all.
So is it more so almost investment advice?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. And by the sounds of things, you're looking to understand an understanding of how to day trade above all else. So right here, I'm just drawing the disconnect between what he's done in the past, which is not what we are here to do. That's investment advice. This is day trading. They're completely separate entities.
At least I want to have that opportunity to swing trade or day trade when I want to. I don't need to sit all day just to make a fortune. That's not the primary goal.
What made you want to get into day trading in retirement?
Yeah, to get some more money to my pension.
Okay.
If possible.
Yeah. And over the course of the last 6 months then, have we been paper trading? Have you been trading with a live account? What have you been doing?
I've been trading on the broker and have some and trying to read the candles and such, with the YouTube advice.
Okay.
Yeah. So partly, the final touch is what's missing.
Okay. When you say you've been trading broker, do you mean you've been utilizing a funded account?
Yeah.
Got it. How much was that funded for?
I've invested myself in a broker and had my own money to deal with, so to speak.
Okay. How much of your own money did you initially put into the trading account?
$1,000, I guess.
So what you're now going to see is me getting very granular on the analytics, because due to the fact that he's here to learn how to trade better, I firstly need to establish what's got him into this in the first place. He mentioned he's now taking money into his retirement. And also, what has his success been like prior to this, to firmly establish a timeline and to also reinforce the concept that he cannot continue to do this by himself. Now I'm asking him how much money he initially put into the account. And you can notice a very key word he said there. I believe he said $1,000, maybe. Maybe. You would know how much money you invested into your own trading account, especially to begin with. And you're going to pick up on some nuances in this conversation in a moment.
Okay, $1,000.
Yeah.
And where are we at over the last 6 months then with that 1,000?
Maybe I have earned 5,000.
Okay, you 5x'd your account.
No. I earned. Okay, I have to translate to Swedish money. $500 approximately.
Quite peculiar. So he says $1,000 US initially. Then when I ask him how much he's made, he decides to give me 5,000, but now that's in Swedish krona. So now, oh no, I didn't mean I 5x the account. This is why it is so important to be granular with people, because you'll notice he begins to evade the questions I ask or tumble over his answers so that he can't build up this false house of cards. He has to be honest with me due to the questions I ask.
But most of the money is still on the account, so it's not spendable. It's not gone.
So just I don't know whether I'm being silly here and I've got lost. So we initially put $1,000 US.
That's a very particular statement I just made, and I did that purposefully. When you feel as though you need to recap, or you feel as though a prospect is doing this and getting themselves out of a situation by talking nonsense, essentially, I preface by, I don't know whether I'm just being silly here, and then I'll recap to them, because it takes the edge off and it almost makes them feel the need to then elaborate
into the account, and it's now down to $500 US.
No, the $1,000 is still there, but I have withdrawal 500 or
Okay.
$1,000 on this.
So you have technically profited sort of 50% of the account.
Yeah.
Are you not satisfied with that rate of development?
No, yeah. but I realized that I'm losing too much. So I want to learn more the details to see. I haven't been lucky with the silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made a bit of money there, so should have last a long time. So I want to, but now I realized I need more specific training for the edges, so to speak.
So predominantly, how often would you say you're profitable per trade? Like, is it structured? Is it discretionary? Have you got any metric with this?
No.
So we're unsure per trade. How many trades would you say you make per day? Have you got any system in place for that?
I don't have any system.
Okay.
I'm trying to have a system, but I haven't figured out. As you can read, there's a lot of information, and you don't know which one fits you the best. So I tried to understand several, not succeed in any specifically. But this one seems very simple. So
I suppose, have we almost gotten lucky that we haven't lost any money yet, do you think?
Yeah, probably I lost a couple of thousand Swedish crowns or something, but let's learn money.
Would you say we're in the green or are we in the red?
Probably tiny red, I guess.
You see, his answers are not adding up. He went from 5,000 to then saying that was in Swedish krona. It's actually about 500. He said he'd originally put $1,000 into the account, which is still there, and he's withdrawn 500. I then asked him, so you profited 50% on the account? He said yes. Now he's saying he's in the red and he's lost money. So I've picked up on all of this, and I understand he's attempting to build this house of cards when in reality, he very clearly has just been losing money with no system in place, and he does not understand how to day trade himself. That's very apparent here.
Tiny red.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't made a deliberate choices. Have been very small amounts.
Yeah.
To deposit, so to speak.
Well, I suppose if we just take a step back for you here, more so, what would you say is the specific outcome then that you're looking to achieve from now learning how to trade at an advanced level?
Now I feel as though I've gotten enough of the logistics and the analytics out the way, and we've clarified his history with trading. Here's where I'm going to go into him now, which is what really matters, because that's how we get actual depth behind why he's looking to do this.
with things.
In time for money or
Yeah, we could use money as a tangible metric. So in order for us to actually save up money for retirement, I suppose what that original aim was, what would that monthly figure be for you that we'd need to aim for profit-wise?
I would manage very well with $500 up to $2,000 a month.
Okay.
500 up to 2,000. Okay. 25% or 100%. There's a huge difference there. It's just picking numbers out of a hat. You don't want somebody to do that because that's not a real goal. That's them just spouting figures.
Yeah.
Or less, $500 to $1,000 a month. It's very well suited.
I suppose, is there a reason behind that amount specifically?
Well, I have my retirement money comes in as well. So this will just be the extra portion. Or vice versa, if it goes well.
Mm. I suppose because there's a big difference between 500 and 2,000, right? Per month. Like, what's the actual number that would have like a tangible change on your life? Because I'm sure $500 isn't gonna change too much, right?
No, there's a $1,000 limit then.
Yeah, you don't.
See, he's just pulling numbers out of a hat, and now I'm going to push back on him here.
You don't need to be modest with me, by the way. Like, we're here to sort of gather. The way I like to think about it is we want to get a goalpost. Otherwise, we're kicking a football into the wind, really. So we want to have something clear that we know we're working towards here.
But if I enjoy the whole thing and it goes well, then the amount upwards is have no limit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you mind if I just chat with you like we're family on this call?
Absolutely.
Always a really good preface to use because it essentially tees you up to challenge and say anything you like. If you're speaking to a man, a lot of the time I'll say, do you mind if we chat as if we were brothers on this call? Due to the fact this gentleman's a lot older than myself, I just went with family. Likewise, if I'm speaking to a woman, I'll always say, do you mind if we just chat as if we're family on this call? They say yes, and then I go in with a reframe.
Okay. I always like to check. I can come across very blunt, I've been told, as I'm British. However,
tell me the truth. That's all I want to know.
It's just the language that you've been using that I'm picking up on. And the reason why I'm picking up on it is you've probably heard this before. Trading at a fundamental level, of course, we need to have an appropriate system, right? We need to have something in place that works. But from there onwards, it's 80% psychological, more than anything else. You've said, if this could work, if it's the right system, if I can make that amount of money, that language in and of itself, can you see what that really means if we peel it back a little bit?
So I've been picking up on the uncertain language he's been using from the very beginning. And this is a very easy way to make the subconscious conscious. So now he's going to be aware of the language he's been using about himself and his own goals. And I've asked it in an open-ended question so he can actually answer for himself.
I'm a little cautious, perhaps.
Yeah.
But that could change quickly.
That cautiousness, and I'm not saying it's something wrong, right? I'm just, that cautiousness, like, where is it stemming from, do you think?
Unsecure about the techniques to read the patterns and that same kind of stuff.
Yeah. And is that a lack of belief in your own capability?
Yeah, the uncertainty as to exactly what to do and when.
So right now, I'm pre-handling and unpacking a potential objection. So to elaborate, I picked up on him using uncertain language. I've highlighted that. He's now said that stems from cautiousness. I've dug on what that cautiousness actually means. He then said a lack of belief and confidence in the system. Now I've asked whether that's a lack of belief and confidence in himself, as I'm gauging whether he means himself or working with somebody else, because they're two very different problems. If he has a lack of belief in himself, that's a very different form of reframe than if he's got a lack of belief in working with somebody else and he's confident in himself, of course.
What's causing that uncertainty? Because you seem like a capable individual.
Yeah, there's the lack of experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Do you mind if I share a perspective on that with you?
Absolutely.
Another preface, because he's now given me another limitation. He said this cautiousness stems from a lack of confidence, and that lack of confidence stems from a lack of experience. However, I know this way of thinking does not serve him. Therefore, I'm going to provide him with feedback and a different perspective on that way of thinking.
So, in regard to that, makes complete sense. I think we all fall into that mentality with things. I mean, I suppose, simple example, do you know how to ride a bicycle?
Yeah.
Now, this is a great analogy to use. It's also a bit of a pattern interrupt. As you can see, people don't expect you to ask a question like that very directly, and it just seems quite off the cuff. Now, analogies are fantastic to use in your process because they spark emotion and understanding. A prospect is able to put themselves into the shoes of the analogy that you describe because it's tangible. And I'm going to now use this analogy to have him see his way of thinking from a different lens.
Did you know how to ride a bicycle before you learned?
No.
How did you learn?
By scratching my knees.
Exactly. And every time you fell off your bicycle, because I ended up flying into a hedge,
Yeah.
what did you do every time you fell off?
No, get up again.
And then
Until I learned.
when you got back on over and over, what ended up happening?
I learned a good bike.
And I'm assuming if I asked you, Tommy, to cycle to the grocery store, you wouldn't be sweating and anxious and nervous now, right?
Not nowadays.
So can you see how in order for us to actually build that confidence, we just need to jump in with both feet and start getting the repetition in behind it?
That's why I contacted you.
Yeah. One question I was wondering,
Do not get happy ears when anybody or a prospect says that, because contacting us means nothing. They've not risked anything. They've invested 12 minutes of their time up to this point.
is, given the fact that you mentioned 6 months ago that initial training course was quite basic, what's held you back over the last 6 months from getting yourself expert help sooner?
I don't know. I was just testing to see different techniques that was offered on the YouTube and see if I could learn it that way, if it was acceptable to achieve anything.
And have you come to a point now where you don't believe that that is the case?
No, I need more specific guidance, so to speak. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In regard to that then, what would you be looking for specifically from us as an individual? Because people learn differently.
Yeah, guidance to see, to read the candles to begin with, and where
Okay.
to enter the trades and such.
Okay. Going to read the candles specifically.
And even to handle some of the tools in TradingView, for example. I don't have the experience of all the tools available.
Okay. And in regard to Jesse or Casper, as you may know him, have you been following Jesse for long? Have you seen the strategies he uses? Like, what was it in particular that drew you to work with us personally?
Yeah, I followed this. I saw some of his YouTube videos, and I felt that his technique was something I could learn from. Yeah, it wasn't too much technical analysis and such. Fair value gap and those things that might suit me.
I mean, that is something I hear quite often. One thing I always like to gain more clarity on, the more simple structure of things rather than the over analysis, over technicality. What about that in particular does appeal to yourself in terms of your trading habits and style?
You simpler the better.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the purpose of that question was. I feel as though that definitely could have been removed. But prior to that, the reason why I asked those two questions was to gauge intent and understanding, and obviously for him to explain why he wants to work with us, with our strategy specifically, over anybody else.
Because what's brought you to this point now? I'm curious. Like, what was it that made you say enough is enough? I'm going to stop trying to like piece things together with duct tape from YouTube and things of that nature. I'm going to take a step and reach out.
No, I realized I won some, I lost some, and the balance is even, so to speak. To come further and make some money, make some real profit, I needed guidance. I understood that.
Yeah. Do you feel as though if you carry on by yourself, you're going to go down into the red?
Oh yeah, probably.
Probably or definitely?
No, no, definitely, perhaps, because
So always call out that form of language. So as you can see, I'm clarifying or having him reiterate that if he continues to do this alone, he will lose more money. However, when asked, he said probably, and prospects will do that a lot. So simple challenge, well, is it probably or definitely? And then they'll correct the language they've used and say, definitely. And what that is cementing to their own mind that they cannot continue on the path by themselves.
yeah, no, yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay.
He's like tried to slip probably back in there, even though he corrected himself.
So let's say this then, because just in regard to your goals, like let's actually get quite a tangible roadmap planned out now. When I suppose you now overcome yourself in a way, and you've gone through that learning experience of seeing whether you can do it alone and you can piece it together. Now you're going to have structure so that we actually have a system behind our trading, right? It's not going to be here or there. It's going to be regimented. And you're, of course, going to be held accountable to that fact. So I hope you're open to that, of course. When we now get you to the point where, I mean, realistically, you're making the bare minimum of $1,000 per month. That to me seems like quite a modest goalpost to set.
But I'm a very earthy guy. I don't live by the stars.
Well, here's something. I'm not a very earthly guy. I don't live in the stars. Now, that is an identity that he's given himself. So it's certainly something that I'm going to want to gain more context on.
If I ended up there, that's okay. But that's I'm a very down earth person.
Do you believe that actually serves you, though, in your best interest?
This course or what?
Well, think of it this way. If I tell myself this month I'm going to make 10,000 US dollars,
Yeah, that's fine.
and you tell yourself if I can make 1,000, it'll be good. Who's actually got a higher probability of making more money?
Yeah, the first person, of course.
How come?
Yeah. Yeah, the willingness to learn and to participate in trainings.
Well, it's
and the amount of time you want to.
So he's answered correctly and bought into the point I made. However, his explanation for it is, once again, quite nonsensical and quite deflective because it's nothing to do with the trading. It was to do with the initial ideology that the person had before they'd even started trading. That was the question that I asked. So I'm going to correct him on this.
Or have to sit in front of the screen.
not even necessarily, if you mind me challenging you there. I suppose, think of it this way. This is putting it quite plainly. Let's say there's two fighters climbing into a ring, boxers. They're about to box. One of the fighters tells themselves, I may win this fight if I land the right punch. The other fighter tells himself, I'm going to land this fight when I land the right punch.
Yeah.
Which one is actually giving themselves the best chance of success?
Really good analogy to use when prospects give you that uncertainty or give you that limiting belief where they don't put full confidence into themselves and say that they're capable of making X amount. The ideology of a fighter, two fighters stepping into the ring, one of them gives themselves full confidence and says, I'm going to win this fight when I land the right punch. The other is stepping into the ring saying, I may win this fight if I land the right punch. Who's actually setting themselves up with a better chance of success? It's very evident that people are going to say the person who says when. How come? Because they have more confidence and conviction. And then we just tie that directly back to them and the goals they have for their future success.
If they have the goal to win, of course, you have probably more chances.
And neither of them know what's actually going to happen, right? They don't know what the other fighter's going to do. They don't know for a fact whether they're going to win. But why do they tell themselves they are, even before having that knowledge?
To push up your self-esteem, perhaps.
So Do you mind if we push you up a little bit here, Tommy?
No, it's not at all.
Because fundamentally, if you tell yourself you may be able to make $1,000, I've got to be quite blunt with you.
I should have rephrased this as a question. I shouldn't have said this as a statement. I should have said, are you really giving yourself the best possible chance?
You're giving yourself quite a large probability chance that you won't.
Yeah, so, okay. then we higher stakes then.
Well, like, are you just saying that to fit the conversation, or can you actually see my perspective and where?
So because I made that as a statement, he almost brushed the answer off, because the prospect's words are 1,000 times more powerful than yours. So in every case, you should try to rephrase a statement as a question so that they can answer it for you and for themselves. Now, because he's almost brushed that question off, and because I have given him a very important reframe here, I've just paused and said, well, like, do you actually understand and agree where I'm coming from? Like, that's fine to say, because I want to get a strong affirmative buy-in from him now.
Where I'm coming from with that.
But as I told you, I am trying to be a very modest guy and not fly away without.
Once again, he's just planting himself back down in the dirt with that identity.
Without any liable experiences or knowledge. Yeah.
Have you always been that way?
No, probably when it's this is when you're learning your skill. My occupation as an electrician and UPS technician. That's when you have learned the basics, then you can add some special knowledge, and I feel this as well.
So if it was electrician work specifically, like are you good?
Yeah.
Would you say you're better than most people?
No, I'm average, but I'm working with UPS battery installations, so that's the kind of niche in this field.
Because when you imagine now, right, this version that working together, we need to get you to.
Yeah.
How clear would you say the image is in your mind now? Like if we were to do a scale of 1 to 10, let's say 10 being, you can already see yourself being a successful, consistent trader. It's bright and clear that you can make the money that you want to subsidize your retirement. 1 being, you can't see it at all. It's cloudy and foggy. Like where are we on 1 to 10 now?
So this is a form of temperature check that I use in my process, when really what it is it's a belief and conviction check. It's essentially asking them, how confident are they in themselves that they can actually make their goals a reality? Because that in and of itself is going to demonstrate intent and capability to overcome fear, vice versa.
8.
Okay. What's gotten us from a 1 to an 8? What's brought us up to there?
My mindset and what to do 6 months that I have studying this.
Yeah.
And that I have acknowledged that I am not fully learned, fully skilled to do the rest.
And then how are we going to get that last 2 then?
That's where you come in.
Okay, so you're hoping we fill the final 2 for you, in essence.
Yeah, you pushed me forward those steps.
So what he's actually doing there is externalizing the responsibility of his own success and confidence. He's saying, I'm an 8 out of 10, and somebody else is supposed to give me the last 2 out of 10. However, that isn't the case, because unless you as an individual take full responsibility and internal accountability for your own success, then you're not actually setting yourself up with the best probability of success.
Let me ask you this. Is it our responsibility to fill that last 2, or is it yours?
They're mine.
Why is it yours?
So I'm challenging him on it immediately and then having him elaborate on this.
I am the one who benefits for it.
Exactly that. Because we are going to, of course, be here to help provide you the initial system and the framework for things. And you're going to have a one-to-one coach in your corner to make sure that you stay consistent and we keep you on track. However, at the end of the day, whose responsibility is it to make sure that this actually happens?
It's always me.
100%. That's what I can say. And of course, I always like to be very careful with what I say on these calls. There is never a guarantee of success, particularly in trading. It goes without saying. All we can guarantee is that we'll give you the necessary level of support that you will need, but it's up to yourself to actually guarantee that you're going to put in the effort up front for us to make this happen. Would you say
I fully understand it.
Would you say you are ready to draw that line in the sand for yourself?
Yeah, that's why we are talking now.
So I always like to emphasize that, because what I'm doing is I'm firmly stating that the onus of responsibility is on them. There are no guarantees of success, and the only individual that can actually guarantee their own success is you, in this case, him. Because you never want to sell individuals, particularly if you're selling an info product, any form of guarantee. All you're doing is buying into the ideology that they can externalize their success. That is not the case.
Hey, talking's all well and good, but action's different from talking. That's what they say.
That's why I committed to take on.
And here we go. I'm challenging him again, because he's once again, happy ears, said, well, that's why I'm on the call today. And I've just said there, well, actions are very different from words.
With you anyway.
Awesome. You probably had all bark, no bite. There's certain people who are like that. So what I think would be helpful, how about I'll walk you through how this is going to get set up specifically for yourself. And I'll try and keep it super clear and to the point. But if you've got any questions whilst I work through things, you just stop me and ask if that's good with you. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So, yeah.
So that's how I was about to preface the pitch. And then I was about to just roll into my pitch. But we'll see what he throws at me right before I pitch here.
I'll start with one question, David. I suppose in some way there is some economics involved, even
of course.
Where does that come in? Does I deposit something somewhere, or what?
He's essentially thrown a "what's the price" at me before the pitch, in essence.
Yeah, so the economics, I'll walk you through once I've kind of just gone through the actual service itself, so you can see whether it'd help you first, of course, right? Unless you're confident that it can help you, then we're never going to want to get you on board regardless. It's not how we operate. If everything is what you're looking for, above all else, then the economics is the easy part.
Okay.
It goes without saying.
Now, I'm going to use this opportunity to pre-handle a finance objection, because he's now handed it to me, and he's also demonstrated that that would more than likely be an objection, hence why he's brought it up.
Can figure out the economics. The part we can't figure out is whether you will do anything you can to make yourself succeed.
Really easy way to deal with a finance objection is to tie it down to identity immediately. So as you can see there, the finances, that's the easy part, right? The tricky part is you becoming the man who does everything within his power to help himself succeed. You see how I've now taken this obstacle, I've removed that from the picture, and I've tied it to deep-rooted identity and decision-making. So the responsibility is now in his court.
Because when it comes to money, right, there's two different mentalities we can have as a man. It can be, I don't have the money, so I can't make this work. Or we can be the man who says, I will do anything in my power to become resourceful enough to get the funds together to make this happen. Like, out of those two men, who's given himself the best chance to be the leader in his own life?
Notice the particular language that I have used there, the leader in his own life. Out of those two men, I'm tying it to his identity and characteristics and traits that he likely wants to live up to.
Which one?
The one who
I challenged him there because he wasn't giving me an answer.
wants to deposit something.
Exactly. So that's the main part, really.
I should have retied that down with how come.
I always like to check off first, and then the rest we can figure out.
Yeah.
Above all else. Is that okay with yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
And look, super simple. I now have gotten over what's the price, essentially, and now I'm just going to head into the pitch. But this is now going to cut to just after the pitch, because we're not going to sit here and watch me pitch somebody.
So would you say, based on what you are trying to achieve, like, does this feel aligned with what you were looking for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you feel like this process could realistically take you from where you're at right now to get into the point where we can get consistently profitable?
Yeah, I'm in.
So after my pitch, I'm going to immediately go into a value confirmation, as I have done here with him.
Into it, so to speak. So I really want this to work.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's all we'd need at the end of the day. Now, obviously, the last thing to cover is the investment itself. Now, as I mentioned, there's a variety of ways that we can cover this. Now, for the mentorship, so that's the 6 months of one-to-one and then ongoing lifetime access, the investment is $12,000. However, for anybody willing to take action and pay that up front, we can actually knock 35% off, so we can bring it down to $7,800.
Is that to pay me in advance or by during the trading sessions or what?
So that would, of course, need to be set up before we got you onboarded and started. So that's the cost, of course, for the coaching and vice versa initially. And then
Just as a disclaimer, the reason why I do a leveraged price drop here is because the $12,000 is the finance option that they could go with, essentially. So if they were to go with the finance option, that would still classify as a paid in full. I would still collect $1,200 commission if they went through with it. Of course, they don't pay as much. They pay via finance, so they'd pay in installments, right? If they were to pay in full, it would be the 7,800. So the reason why I anchor the price like that is because if they happen to not be able to pay in full, then it's much harder to tell somebody, well, we could break the payments up over time. However, the total price will actually increase by 35%. Just the fact that we've inversed that from the beginning demonstrates how easy it would be, or how easier it is for us to then step up and say, okay, well, it would just be the normal price rather than an increased price. Now, he's about to give me our very first objection, which is essentially, I thought I could pay after I've started to get results.
And it would depend how you want to take care of the payment. I suppose for yourself personally, what makes most sense in terms of handling the investment? Would it be breaking it up over time, or would it be paying it up front and knocking the 35% off?
Well, I don't know. I was hoping you could make some profit on your trading and pay it that way, so to speak.
Tommy, I'm hoping I was a few inches larger at times, but we can't have certain things in life, unfortunately.
So obviously, you've got to have a laugh, right? You've got to have a laugh on these calls. Now, there is a technicality to why I've done that, though, because at the end of the day, in objections, people can get very anxious. It seems like this high octane, high pressure scenario. The fact that I'm laughing and joking with him and I've just made an off the cuff crazy remark like that, it's dispelled his pressure. Like, he's laughing now, he's smiling. It's almost broken the ice again, which enables me to actually gradually overcome these objections that he's about to give us.
Right, I think, of course, I could pay some in advance, absolutely. But my biggest hope was to achieve the profit from during the trading and the account and pay it that way.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, of course, right? If we could just not pay for something and then pay after we'd gotten the reward, then it would be like saying I'm going to pay for my university degree once I've gotten the job. And I'm earning $50,000 a year. I'll start putting some money down. Is this, I suppose, one thing to highlight there, just in regard to that concern?
So as you can see, I've just used another analogy. Not sure whether that was the best one. I probably could have come up with a better analogy than that. But essentially, I've presented that to him so that he can then at least absorb and acknowledge that that way of thinking doesn't necessarily make any sense, right? It is the equivalent of saying, can I pay? Well, I will pay for the car once I've driven a few thousand plus miles on it, or 10,000 plus miles on it.
Do you genuinely believe, really, that working together we can get you to the point of profitability?
Yeah, I guess so. That could do. I'm a little doubtful about the amount. I already paid for.
So you can still see the uncertainty. I guess so, Because one thing you always want to establish before going into reframing and challenging objections directly is you have to confirm the value. You have to confirm that they genuinely believe this can actually get them to their goal. Once that's been established, then we can go into the psychology and the mentality that's actually holding them back from taking the initial step.
That Swedish course.
Mm-hmm.
So,
However, he's now brought back up that initial course that he raised at the very beginning of the conversation that we went through, that he mentioned didn't necessarily get him to where he wanted to go. So the second objection for us to now handle.
I have to think about it during the weekend anyway.
Mm-hmm. In regard to paying for that other Swedish course,
And he's thrown a think about it in there over the weekend as well. We've got the trifecta.
in a sense, do you feel as though that's almost left like a bit of a sour taste in your mouth, so to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
It was advertised wrong in the wrong way, in my opinion.
So this is a classic burnt in the past objection. He's done something in the past. He feels as though it didn't give him the return on investment that he thought it was going to, and he's got that bad taste in his mouth. So this is a really good analogy to use in a specific example like that.
I suppose in a way, it's like being in a past negative relationship before, in a sense. Like, have you ever dated somebody in your life and it didn't quite end up the way you envisioned?
Oh, yes.
Like perhaps your trust was a little bit hurt. It didn't end quite well.
Who hasn't?
Yeah.
You know an analogy's landing well when they start laughing and smiling, because you can tell they're really putting themselves into the exact situation and position you're describing.
I certainly have. And I remember thinking, gosh, like I could allow this individual to leave a mark, right? To leave a wound. And I could then take this lack of trust and allow it to impact every future interaction that I have. But if we allow that to happen, then like, does that give us the...
Every relation is a learning process also.
Yeah. Like, does that give us the best possible chance of meeting our perfect future partner and living the happy life we deserve if we take that lack of trust and move it forward with them?
Exactly.
Well, does it?
One thing you'll notice, I will never allow somebody to not answer my question. And you should do the same. Reiterate the question until they give you the answer that you're actually looking for. Disclaimer, I actually haven't experienced that personally. The reason as to why I frame the analogy around myself is because it essentially sets it up for, even if somebody hasn't necessarily gone through that experience themselves either, when I then frame it as if I have, they can at least acknowledge and understand the concept that I'm putting forward to them.
No, because you have learned something, and then you can go pass on and go further in your life.
Because if you continue to hold on to this past pain from that previous program, then what's going to happen?
I won't do any progress.
Boom. There we go. So we've just gotten him, and you can see by his face, he knows that he's essentially just owned up to the fact that this objection doesn't make sense now to be the reason as to why he doesn't potentially move forward and change.
So at what point are you willing to overcome that so that we don't continue to sabotage ourselves going forward and give them more power?
Don't follow you there.
Well, you mentioned there that if you carry on with holding on to that pain from what happened, you won't make any progress, right?
Some progress I will do, but not
Here's a little pushback from him. Some progress.
not exactly the progress that you can attend to me.
Are you the type of man who's going to settle for some progress?
Super simple challenge. One thing that I hope you're picking up on throughout this video is the way in which I am using the language he uses back toward him. Use the prospect's language, because the words they say are more important than the words you say. Now, that is a very common tendency. People will say, well, I'd make some of the progress, or I'd get there eventually. It would just take longer. they're going to give you a bit of a pushback because they don't necessarily want to tell themselves that they've got no chance in a lot of cases. Simple pushback on that is, are you the type of man that would settle for getting there eventually? Are you the type of person that would settle for getting there in an inefficient manner? And as you can see here, I've done the same, but I've used his specific words.
No, I want to leave that basic knowledge that they provide for investment and go further to the real trading.
So the question I asked was, are you willing to overcome that past pain so that you don't allow that to continue to sabotage yourself moving forward?
Yeah, of course.
So there we go. Re-ask the question, and I get the affirmative answer from him.
So when you say you kind of need to go away and think about things, what is actually coming up for you? And you can be completely straight with me.
And now I'm going to go into the think about it you gave me. So can you see how I've just unpacked the first objection? Resolved. Unpacked the second objection? Resolved. Now I'm going to go into the think about it over the weekend that he mentioned on the back end.
Yeah, let's see the amount of money they have to make. These have to make a profit from later on. Well, let's see.
Yeah, exactly that. And I suppose there's two things there. When you say amount of money, is it we don't have the money, so that's going to make things difficult? Or is it we have the money, but this is the first time we've ever invested that amount into ourselves, and we're still a bit uncertain as to whether the result's going to arrive? Which would you say it is?
So now he's given us, it's the amount of money, but the amount of money doesn't actually mean anything. So I need context on what he means by that. Hence why I've given him a bit of a binary option to get some more clarity.
More likely the last one, but I have invested money myself, but not exactly that amount.
Yeah. Because, I mean, do you mind if I give you feedback?
Absolutely. That's what.
Going for a challenge here, so I will preface the challenge with, do you mind if I give you some feedback? Because now he's open.
Yeah, well, I always like to say that the coaching's already started in a sense, I'd hope, in some way. There's only two types of men we can be in this exact situation, really. We can be the man who says, I'm going to wait to take this step until the result is guaranteed. And I could not tell you how long you're going to be waiting, Tommy, in that mindset.
No.
Or we can be the man who says, I'm going to do everything within my control and within my power in the present moment to become my own guarantee of success.
I create the pressure on myself.
See how once again, I've taken the objection and I have tied it down to identity, to core rooted ways of thinking. And he's now answered for himself there because it's made sense. He creates the pressure for himself.
If I invest this kind of money.
Exactly that.
That's the balance I am struggling with, I guess.
Because, I mean, do you mind if I tell you how I got into this space?
So now, this is very nuanced, and understandably, a lot of you are not going to be able to tell the story that I am about to tell. He's just said to me, that's the balance that I'm struggling with. So due to the fact that he's acknowledged with me, he understands the point I'm making and that he does need to create his own pressure for success. I now know that the only thing standing in his way is the fear. He clarified he has the money. This is just the first time he's ever invested that much into himself in one go. So all that's really stemming from is a need for certainty, or in this case, a lack of certainty, and therefore fear holding him back from making the decision. So what I'm now going to do is use a true personal story that I have. However, disclaimer, the story I'm about to tell is the true story that actually led to me becoming a high-ticket closer. So this applies when I actually first invested into a closing mentorship and training. However, of course, dependent on what I'm selling, in this case, trading, I have now adapted the story to change closing to trading. That's the only change I've made. The rest of the story that I'm about to tell is 100% true. It is not fabricated. What I would personally recommend is think about your own life. Think about genuine struggles, hardships, stories that you have where you have actually had a form of a come up. You faced obstacles that might be quite unique or relatable, and you developed from it. You faced fear and then developed. Come up with a brilliant story. Of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be true, but it's going to sit and feel far more powerful if it is, and utilize it, because human beings love stories. It plants them in emotion. They love to follow chronologically, and it really builds them into a rapport building conversation with you. So remember that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the reason why I suppose I've developed this level of understanding of things, like, I mean, obviously I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point. I originally invested into myself in October 2024. So it's not actually been too long, right? It's been coming up towards what?
True.
2 years now. And what ended up happening, I used to work as a personal trainer back then. Wasn't making very much money in my hometown in the United Kingdom. And let's just say I'd been doing that for a couple of years and I wasn't really fully satisfied
Also true.
with where I was. I knew I wanted to do a little bit more, give back to my family and loved ones. And I spoke to a friend of mine. He was in Forex trading at the time. And the very first thing he said to me is,
That is actually true as well. This caveat just did not happen. The rest of the story, it was closing, not trading. But the premise applies.
you need to invest into somebody, otherwise you will gamble your money away and you'll burn yourself out and you won't be consistent. So I said, okay. So I did. Went online. Back then, I believe it was $8,000, my very first initially invested. That was a lot of money for me at the time. Let's put it that way. That was probably 2 to 3 months of my pay. And it was terrifying. Let's just be upfront with it. Back then, it definitely was for me. It was a huge step. But I knew there was either two choices. Either I face the fear and take the risk, or I guarantee that nothing changes. And I stay where I have been for the last couple of years. So I did it. Now, 1 week after I made that investment,
This is all true.
I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of my mum screaming in the other room. So I shot up out of bed, can't describe the adrenaline, muscles on fire, running like a cartoon character. I come barreling out my bedroom and my mum just comes bursting past me and she's screaming that the house is on fire. And I kid you not, like some movie scene, turn into my hallway. There are flames on the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling. The whole place is up ablaze. Turns out an electric drying rack had shorted in the night. And I remember my mum saying the dog was still inside the house. And I was telling myself, I've got to do everything I can. But the fear, I just cannot describe the fear. It was every muscle fiber says, you can't go into those flames. You can't do that. Like some form of miracle, the fire brigade got there in 5 minutes, burst into the house, rescued my dog, and then resuscitated her with an oxygen mask. So, praise be, we actually all made it out alive, and that was okay. The house was lost for a very extended period of time. Anyway, the reason why I'm telling you this, there was a moment after everybody had left, and I was stood there staring at the ashes of my hallway and the home. And I thought to myself, right now, nobody would bat an eye if I requested a refund. They wouldn't. And most would likely say, that's totally fine. That's totally fair. You've just nearly lost, well, you have. You've just lost your house and nearly lost everything, essentially, at the time. However, I knew if I did that, I would likely never have done it again.
So true. So true.
Like, if I requested that refund, the fear would have creeped back in, the same old contentment would have creeped back in, and I would have just stuck on with the life I had been living. So I faced up to it, and I used that moment. I used that moment to drive me forward more than anything else. And I used to work on my laptop, staring at the charts on top of a set of drawers in an Airbnb. No space for my legs. I had to sit split leg like this, hunched over, day in, day out.
This is true for closing calls. That was actually what I did at the time to take my very first sales calls.
And I just dedicated myself because I said, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this work. And that alone is what drove me to my success. That alone. Of course, I had the guidance. Of course, I had the structure. But it was that deep-rooted understanding that regardless, I was going to do whatever it took to make it happen. And I suppose the question I always ask the people is, are you willing to become that man?
Boom. Absolute mic drop. What are you going to say at that point? What excuse are you going to give me? In fact, if there are any closers watching this right now, you've gotten this far in the video and you've been considering or on the fence about working with a coach or joining a community so that you can finally start breaking through your commission plateaus and getting to the 10, the 15, the 20, the $30,000 a month. But you've been giving yourself excuses. You've been holding yourself back saying, it's not quite the right time. I've already invested into this community before. I need to build up X amount of finances first. Take a look in the mirror and tell me whether you think that's a worthy excuse after I survived a house fire, put my back against the wall, and used that to, quite literally, pun intended, light a fire under my feet. And that's what has now led me to this level of success in the space. So if there are any of you right now that this resonates with, make this the moment. Not in 10 minutes, not in an hour, not tomorrow morning. Make this the moment. Go to the description. My Instagram's there if you want to DM me directly and just have a conversation, or hit the Calendly link and just go to straight booking in a call, and we'll jump on and get to know each other on that call first. Okay, let's finish up the video. I expect at least a few of you to actually set yourself that standard in life if you know deep down you've been giving yourself those excuses, because they will not fly with me. This right here is why I can handle objections back to back to back. 3 to 4 objections this guy's given me. And the way in which I've defeated and maneuvered around those objections is because of who I am. The identity that I embody and the standards that I live by and always have done. The congruency that I hold, which is why I run Congruent Closers, the best sales brotherhood in the entire closing space, bar none.
Yeah, sort of. Anyway, this is the first step. Anyway,
The first step of many.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was an introduction I needed to understand what this was all about. So,
But the real question is, Tommy.
yeah, it's a challenge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a what do you call it? It's tempting and it's a challenge.
You can still see he's battling with himself here.
Are you willing to fight that fear and overcome that challenge?
Yeah, if I do invest this kind of money, then I'm absolutely into it.
Because look, I'm willing to see if we can break things down for you, if that would actually allow you to take this step for yourself.
Now I've offered him a potential payment plan because I can see how much he's struggling with himself here. You can see him banging his pen.
We can't wait until Monday.
You tell me, because
You tell me.
tomorrow's never promised. If I'd have said that the night before the fire, you'd never see me again.
Okay.
Listen to that, closers. Listen to that. Right there. You tell yourself this isn't the right time. You tell yourself you need to wait. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's never promised. That excuse does not fly. Hit those links in the description.
Well, yeah, let's go for it then.
Are you sure?
At the moment, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I really want it to work, so to speak. Yeah, that's.
Well, it will work as long as you want it to work. That's the thing. What's got you sure? I just want to know.
So now I'm going to tie down his certainty. He's in. We've got him over 4 to 5 different objections at this point, and he's in. But I want him to elaborate why he's now in.
What's got you sure that you're ready to make this work?
I need the income, not now, in a couple of years, a year or two.
Yeah. So when it comes to the payment, should we do the 7,800 and knock the 35% off?
What's the other option?
The other option would be, let me double check. So the original price would be 12,000, but we could break that down. So it'd be a larger total, but you could break it down over time.
How long time? 6 months or what?
Yeah, 6 months.
Okay. No, I can pay it all in one step.
Should we do it?
Yeah, do so.
Awesome. Let's do it, Tommy, man. Let's do it. Give me a minute. I think that should have gone through, I believe. Has it gone through on your side? Fantastic. Before we go any further, how'd you feel?
Exciting.
Yeah, come on. Hey, just real quick, do this.
If because of the video you might not see, I was doing this. I was saying, give yourself a pat on the back.
Yes. Give yourself a pat on the back, Tommy. I can't describe to you how I was in the exact same shoes as you, like that 1.5, 2 years ago before I started and before I had confidence and before I knew what I now know. And I can assure you that it won't take as long as your mind tells you either. Your mind's going to tell you, oh gosh, I'm so far away. You're usually a lot closer than you believe.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this video has been helpful. As you can see there, genuine integrity and the congruency that I hold within myself is what is actually critical to my success as a closer. And it's why I propelled through the industry and got to where I am today with my understanding of sales psychology. It's critical for you to understand this because no sales framework, no objection handling word tracks and heavy as the head that wears the crown nonsense is going to be able to allow you to have people like that step out of their own way. My story, my conviction, and my understanding of him as a human being and what was holding him back is what enabled us to get $7,800 paid in full up front when that was the first time this man has ever invested that amount of money into himself in a 1-hour conversation. Now, if any of you have any questions on this in particular, as I've mentioned, my Instagram is in the description. Head on there and shoot me a DM and we can have a chat. And as I mentioned, there is a Calendly link as well. If you hit that, we will book in a 15 to 20 minute introduction call. I like to get to know everybody first before we even consider getting you on board and getting you inside of the brotherhood and the community that I run, because firsthand, I genuinely want to know what it is you're looking for. And secondly, I want to make sure that you would be a great fit inside. Once we've established that and we've had a great conversation, I'll usually jump on another call with yourself the following day, and then we'll get you onboarded. So if you're worried that there's going to be this one call close, high pressure scenario, you're mistaken. That's not how I operate. However, one caveat I will give to that: if you show up to that second call, then you best be sure I'm going to objection handle you to the grave if need be, if I know you're standing in your own way. And I think this video is a testament to that. So as always, thanks for watching, people.